Okay, good evening, everyone, and trust we all doing great. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're watching us from, and trust we all doing great. So I welcome you guys to our weekly analysis. Today being Sunday, we'll be looking at gold, of course, gold. We'll be looking at gold, we'll be looking at Euro USD, we're looking at GBP USD and the dollar index. Looking at my screen right now, you can clearly see that gold have been, doing amazing job for us for the past few weeks now. So we are looking forward to a profitable week, starting from Monday to Friday. We're looking forward for a profitable week. Doing our normal 1:2 only on gold, and I have other pairs just like I mentioned earlier that I'll be looking at this week: Euro USD and GBP. The only reason why I haven't been analyzing Euro USD and GBP USD for a while now is because their movement is not really clear. Well, I checked the chart on Friday and I saw some promising movement. That's why I added it to my watch list again. So now I'll have to clear these last week trades on gold. You can see all hit our target last week on gold. 1:2, 1:2 risk to reward. So I'll have to clean everything right now and start all over again for the coming week. Remove all 32 drawings. So if you've been following my analysis, more often, you clearly see that I always look out for one thing. I look out for internal range liquidity and external range liquidity. So looking at gold from the weekly time frame, we can clearly see that price took out this external range liquidity. You can clearly see that price took out this external range liquidity. I need to change this color to black. I changed it to red when I was explaining something for one of my mentees. So now we can clearly see that gold have taken out this external range liquidity here. So what is the next thing you think gold is going to do? Now we have this internal range, this weekly fair value gap here that price is yet to mitigate. And we have this fresh weekly fair value gap here. We have this weekly fresh fair value gap. So my best bet on gold this week is for price to drop down into this weekly fair value gap. Then I'll have to go down to the 4-hour time frame for enough confirmation because of the time frame alignment. Now, let me explain the time frame alignment. If you're making use of the monthly time frame, you need to go down to the daily time frame and look out for reactions. Now, this reaction can be change of character, like what most of us call it, change of character. That's what I want to see on the daily time frame. If you're looking at the higher weekly time frame as your higher time frame context, now when price draws to your point of interest, you go down to the 4 hours time frame for reaction. If you're making use of the daily time frame for your higher time frame context, whenever price draws to your point area of interest or point of interest, you go down to the 1 hour time frame and look out for reaction. So for daily time frame, I move down to the 1 hour for reaction and the 5 minutes for my entry. If I'm looking at the weekly time frame, I use the 4 hours for reaction and also the 15 minutes for entry. So if I'm looking at the monthly time frame, I use the monthly, then move down to the daily time frame and the 5 minutes time frame for entry. This is basically how I trade, and this have actually helped me along the line make those reasonable amount of money from the market, targeting 1:2 risk to reward, risking 1% of my account, and going for 2% profit. Okay, so here on gold, I'm expecting price to drop down into this weekly fair value gap, and I have to go down to my 4-hour time frame. I have to go down for my 4-hour time frame and look out for reaction. So I'm expecting the continuation of this bullish movement on gold. then I'll be targeting this. This should be my drawn liquidity. This external range, weekly external range liquidity here should be my drawn liquidity. This is my drawn liquidity. So this is what I'm expecting on gold. This is what I'm expecting on gold. If the zone fails to hold price, then my next point of interest will be this weekly fair value gap right here. Okay, so that is everything I have for gold. Now looking at the dollar index, let's see what we get from the dollar index. Remove all drawings. So go down to the monthly time frame. We start analyzing from the monthly time frame. So we have this internal range liquidity here. We have this internal range liquidity here. Of course, we can clearly see that it's already doing its job, pushing price down and pushing price down, right? And looking at this place, looking at this movement right here, I can also see this monthly fair value gap here. I can also see this monthly fair value gap, which I'm expecting dollar index to drop into this. I'm expecting this dollar index to drop down into this monthly fair value gap right here. So dropping down to the daily time frame, let's see what we are going to get from the daily time frame. We can clearly see that the order flow here have already changed. We can clearly see that the order flow here have already changed, right? Price taking out this external range liquidity, and leaving us with this internal range liquidity here. This daily fair value gap. We have this daily fair value gap. So I'm expecting dollar to drop down more in this coming week because of this thing that I just saw here. Now we clearly, I also have a swing failure, or some call it SMT, but I call it a swing failure or SMT. They are all still the same thing. Smart money techniques, that's the meaning of SMT, swing failure. This high failed to break above this high. So price breaking this external range liquidity, I'm expecting the dollar index to push up into this daily fair value gap before eventually coming down to our monthly fair value gap for us to see the continuation of the bullish trend on dollar index and dollar pairs, of course. Dropping into this daily fair value gap. All right. So this is what I'm expecting on the dollar index in this coming week. I have this fresh draw on liquidity here, this monthly fair value gap, which is a fresh draw on liquidity. Please, if you're just joining the call now, can you mute? If you're just joining the call now, please can you? So price dropping down to this monthly fair value gap, we'll see a continuation of the bullish trend on dollar pairs. So looking at EURUSD, let's see what we're going to get from EURUSD. Remove all drawings, so we'll start all over again. EURUSD from the monthly time frame, just like what we are seeing in the dollar index on the monthly time frame, right? You can clearly see that we have a fresh, price actually reacted to this monthly fair value gap here, pushing price up. And we also have this internal range liquidity, which is this monthly fair value gap as well. Which is this monthly fair value gap. Price taking out this external range, this low here, taking out this external range, expecting it to buy all the way up into this monthly fair value gap. So looking at the daily time frame, let's see what we're going to get from the daily time frame. Exactly the same thing we are seeing on dollar index, the DXY. The same thing is happening on EURUSD on the daily time frame. So here we have a swing failure or an SMT, and we also have a structure shift. We also have a structure shift and a daily fair value gap. and the daily fair value gap. I'm expecting price to drop into this daily fair value gap, to continue the bullish movement into this our monthly fair value gap before we'll be able to see some decline on Euro USD. It's not going to happen immediately, but gradually, the coming weeks, the coming months, it will eventually happen. All right. So I'm going into this week on Euro USD. I'm bullish going into this week on Euro USD. I want to see price drop into this fair value gap, and then I'll have to go to the 1 hour time frame and look out for reactions or change of character, depending on what you call it, to make sure that this bullish movement is going to hold. All right. So for DXY, I'm expecting some bearish movement on DXY, and I'm expecting some bearish movement on gold before we eventually get our bullish movement. I'm expecting price to drop into our weekly fair value gap. I'm expecting price to drop into our weekly fair value gap on gold. And here on Euro USD 2, I'm expecting price to drop into our daily fair value gap. So before we see the continuation of the bullish movement. All right. The last on my watch list is Great British Pounds USD, which is GBP USD. I have to remove all drawing and start all over again to explain. Now, looking at the monthly time frame on GBP USD, it's just the same thing happening on DXY, inverse correlated. The same thing happening on Euro USD is the same thing happening on GBP USD. Of course, we all know that DXY and Euro USD are inversely correlated. So if I'm seeing a series of higher highs and higher lows on DXY, I'm expecting to see series of lower highs and lower lows on Euro USD or GBP USD, and we can clearly see that that is happening, right? So on GBP USD, I have this fresh drawn liquidity, which is this monthly fair value gap right here. Dropping down to the daily time frame, that's what we're going to get from the daily time frame. The same SMT or swing failure we have on Euro USD, we have that on GBP USD, and we also have that on DXY. Inversely, the inversion of this on DXY. All right. And now price breaking this, giving us a structure shift. You can clearly see that that price closed with a full candle, a full body candle close, right? Now leaving a gap, which is our internal range liquidity. This daily fair value gap, and this is our drawn liquidity, the monthly fair value gap. So GBP USD, I'm expecting price to drop into this gap to continue the bullish movement until we get into this monthly fair value gap. So I'll just have to do a little recap on all these pairs, starting from gold. Now here on gold, expecting price to drop down into the weekly fair value gap, right? You can clearly see here on 4 hours. And you also have this. So likely this is going to give us, if gold should play out like this, it's going to give us an A+ setup. It's going to give us an A+ setup, all right? They're giving us a turtle soup here and a weekly, dropping down into the weekly fair value gap. Dropping down into the weekly fair value gap before we see the continuation, of the bullish movement on Euro USD. So looking at GBP Euro USD, the same thing. Euro USD expecting price to drop down into this our daily fair value gap to continue the bullish movement into the monthly fair value gap. All right. Looking at GBP USD again, expecting GBP USD, expecting price to drop it down into our daily fair value gap. So obviously, I'm saying this week as one of the best week because we can clearly see that all this setup, from what I've seen in the market so far, These setups are giving an A plus vibe. They are giving an A plus vibe. And trust me, we're all going to make money this week, either from gold or from GBP USD or from Euro USD, all going to make money because we have a clean setup into the market this week. A clean setup into the market this week. All right. So whatever you're doing this week, you just have to be patient. Don't try and rush anything. Just have to be patient. Don't try and rush anything. Don't rush anything. Okay. Be a sniper man. Wait for price to come to your area of interest or your point of interest, depending on what you call it. Then you execute. All right. Don't just use because you're seeing series of impulsive movement. Don't just use because you're seeing series of impulsive movement to take and make irrational decisions. All right. FOMO is real in the Forex industry. Now, the full meaning of this is fear of missing out. I tell you the truth, bro. You're not missing out on anything. All right. You're not missing out on anything. Even if that setup leaves you, don't worry. Another setup is going to come. Okay. You're not missing out on anything. Just stick to your strategy, stick to your pair, be disciplined. And I put it to you, you're going to make series of money this week. You're going to make enough money this week. I've given myself, a challenge already. I've given myself a challenge already. Now, if you're in my group, you will know that I've been talking about this challenge for a while now. I've been talking about this challenge for a while, and we are executing this week because of this wonderful setups we are seeing. We are executing this week. Don't be left out, okay? And if you have any question, you can ask your questions now. If there is no question, then we'll have to call it a day. Okay, so in the absence of no other question, I'll see you guys tomorrow during New York session. Have a wonderful night rest, everyone. Good night and stay blessed.